I met him once briefly, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what they're up to exactly. Like, I'm talking to Lue soon, so I'm excited to kind of dig in there. But
And you've talked to him before, right?
yeah, I have. Yeah, I actually did a show with him in Wyoming at his spot out there, and then it never saw the light of day. I guess.
Why? Coming from the VC world and whatever. But, he talked about things so matter-of-factly in that episode when we were talking about the power of social media and the kind of stranglehold that has on society and thought. One of the things he said is that these companies, referring to the social media companies, and therefore also referring to the government and the power that the highest levels have, they can simulate things ahead of time. And what he expanded upon that with is he's like, they have the power based on all the amalgamated data that they can collect online of people's behaviors. They have the power to be able to put in a what if scenario and say, how would overall society react based on all the personalities we've put together in a similar way, by the way, to what the Cambridge Analytica guys did in 2016, helping Trump out because they created digital profiles of everyone. Think of that with more time passed now on steroids. And so he's like, these organizations can figure out, for example, what if, let's say they knew behind the scenes a truth was that aliens exist, here's the planet they're from, here's when they've been here, whatever, here's what's not true, here's what's true. What if we told society this, what would happen? Perhaps, and this is where it gets into do you take the side of intel? Because, I mean, I want to fucking know. I can handle it, right? You can handle it. But like across society, it's like, could people handle it? Perhaps if they've put in this what if in 2015 just to figure it out, like, oh shit, we know what's going on, or we've known what's going on. Could society handle this? If on the other side of that what if simulation, it spit out that like, yo, this would create ontological shock that would lead to the fucking purge and people would all kill each other and the world would end and nukes would go off. Well, now I'm on the side of intelligence going, we can't fucking tell them what's really going on. And that sucks. But it's like, and I don't want to be like a statist fucking bootlicker. Like, yeah, you don't tell us, baby. But if they simulate it and it doesn't spit that out, and it's like, yo, people could handle this, and they're not telling us, well, that pisses me to fuck off.
Totally.
So I don't know whether to be like, okay, all right, or like, fuck you.
Yeah. I think the like judo move is like, don't wait on like do your own research. Like I think the idea that like ontological truth is monopolized by government, I think is over relying on the government. Like I do think, if they were to like declassify everything immediately, I do think it would be ontologically shocking. I do think there are people in government that know crazy things about reality, but in many ways they're artifacts about reality. It's like this thing, this crash happened or whatever, or like, maybe this like weird topological physics principle, like all these sorts of things that are probably like scattered throughout government that are like kind of like insane and mind blowing and crazy. But a lot of these things can be figured out through kind of your own, open source techniques and through like your own, inquiry. And I think it's almost this like litmus test or forcing function where like your ability to figure it out is almost like goes in hand with like your ability to handle it. If you do like on your own, figure it out on your own. And so, I think this whole like waiting for this stuff to come out and like being super antsy about like, some like, government disclosure thing. Like it's just like this like amorphous bogeyman red herring. Like what is disclosure? Like what is that? Like if the government came out now, like the president came out now and said UFOs are real, you'd still have some subset of the population not believing it and super cynical about them saying it. If you see a video, maybe that's like we live in the world of deep fakes. I just talked to you about like, Stanford professor who's like got all the credentials you need saying like you have like, mass spec isotope ratios don't exist naturally on Earth. And so like what actually is UFO disclosure? Like seeing, like there are actually a lot of videos online. There are a lot of videos and there are a lot of videos that like are kind of hard to debunk, so we live in this like weird world of like the relativization of facts, like the mass relativization of truth and facts. It's almost like, the dark ages of past was like a dearth of information. This is an excess of, we were drinking from a fire hose of information. And so I think that's like a really important question. It's like, what is disclosure? And can you just use this, can you actively like seek it? And I don't think it's actually really healthy for a lot of people to like think about this all the time. I think it's like it can be really like hard for people and kind of, it's like ontologically shocking, like weird process.
It gets religious too.
It gets religious, and then like, it's unclear exactly how it cashes out. Like it's like maybe you end up in the program or something, and then what? And then you're like maybe like sitting at a cubicle or something. Maybe you can do some higher level thing for them. I don't know. But like it's like you have all these people like on the internet like studying this stuff all the time. And like so
like
I think
like Charlie and It's Always Sunny. It's right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and then there's the idea that like, but reality itself is not monopolized by the government. Like that's like more of a religious thing. It's like you can just like look into that on your own.
For sure.
Yeah.
But like it's strange that from say 1945-ish, that ballpark area.
Yeah.
Till 2017.
Yeah.
It was this Steven Spielberg might make a movie.
Yeah.
We'll get a good Terminator, or not Terminator. We'll get a good Alien versus Predator movie,
yeah,
or something like that. But like this is just a thing over there.
Yeah.
It's not like Dr. Michio Kaku's out here talking about UFOs.
Yeah.
It's not like you have serious people like a Gary Nolan coming in and studying a lot of different things around this, not just the things that were retrieved, but things that have to do with the basal ganglia, like you were explaining, and all that. Like it became after 2017, there was a shift where suddenly there was like a decision to pull it more mainstream. And we mentioned it earlier, but it starts with Christopher Mellon, member of the Mellon family, got to say that, walking out legally out of the Pentagon and legally distributing information to the New York Times, where I think this was also where we got the new term UAP, which is also interesting, and saying like, all right, front page of the New York Times, like, yo, some shit's going on out there that we can't explain. And, we can talk about the Tic Tac stuff and all that. But, like, now, 7 years later, it has become much more of a mainstream topic. So, we started this long tangent about this where you were talking about the concept of could there be a psyop that also then is on top of something that's real because it's real?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What's your thought on the characters that have come out? And we'll get to Grush, but let's more focus on, say, Christopher Mellon.
Yeah.
Lue Elizondo, who was allegedly the head of the ATIP program in the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And guys like that coming out and mainstreaming this. Do you think it's a pure distraction, or do you think it's all truth, or do you think it's a mix of both?
I don't know. I mean, I guess Mellon was Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense Intelligence for both Clinton and Bush. Yeah, he's got to be like pretty deep on the inside, and like I mean, he has to know a lot, and then he obviously comes from the Mellon family or whatever. I don't know how much that gives you as far as access to UFO knowledge. Probably not much, but
allegedly.
All right. I
don't know what they do at those Mellon parties, baby. You don't know.
I haven't gotten an invite.
Yeah, I want my invite. Let's go.
I met him once briefly, but I don't know. I'm not sure what they're up to exactly. Like, I'm talking to Lue soon, so I'm excited to kind of dig in there.
And you've talked to him before, right?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I actually did a show with him in Wyoming at his spot out there, and then it never saw the light of day. I guess.
Why?
I think he like wasn't allowed to do media or something. I think due to some like relationships he had. I'm not exactly sure, but
okay, so he couldn't let it.
He couldn't let it be released. It was kind of frustrating.
Did he blow your mind at all?
He had some. He's really good with like analogies, like these like like he's good at like describing like the space-time metric engineering on the paper or whatever, and then like like the science religion thing. I remember him being like, they're two sides of the different, of like a pyramid, and like you're starting, religion like at the bottom of the pyramid. You're starting science. It's like a totally different side, and then you converge at some like a mega point. And I was like, that's a really good analogy. But no, he didn't blow my mind. I mean, like on some of the implant stuff, actually, he blew my mind. I mean, Imminent does have some interesting revelations there, but as far vis-a-vis the Grush stuff, where it's like, no, we have like actual like reverse engineering
Right.
programs, like Elizondo, to me, 2017 is definitely like pushing the ball forward. Now I wouldn't say he's as much the tip of the spear. I think the Grush stuff is a little more,
Right.
the frontier.
Before we get to that though, staying on Lue, it's like in the past, like Lue has this religious and anti-religious thing online. There's people who religiously believe every single thing he says and treat him like the second coming of Jesus Christ from Cuba.
Yeah.
And like, he's also I think his dad like escaped Cuba. I didn't make that
He
up,
did.
right?
I think he escaped Cuba. I think he fought on like Castro's side, I think, and then like ended up escaping, but then I think somehow he ended up in Intel. I think he was in the CIA. I think he's like a super
gotta look at
interesting,
that
like
more.
crazy
Yeah.
life, and I think now he lives in South America or something, or I don't know. But he is super interesting. guy.
Interessante.
Yeah.
I will put a pin in that one.
Yeah.
But like you have this guy who, comes out and discloses all this stuff, and it obviously blows your mind if it's true and things like that. But online, you have the people who follow every single thing he says religiously, and then you have the other side who treats him like the second coming of Satan himself.
Right.
And there's some weird shit that's like online that people argue about over that. I'm less involved with that world. Where I've been critical of him in the past on several episodes. I know 151 with Ron James, we were talking about that a bunch because he interviewed him for his documentary. We talked about it with Nick Pope in 179, like 3 hours in. Nick Pope has thoughts on that because he was in the government and stuff. And there have been some others where I've talked about it. It's like, I joke like fed because to lose credit, maybe. If you listen to him in full context in past interviews, he said lines like, I'm paraphrasing, but it's pretty damn close to what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
He said things like, listen, I'm an intel guy.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So here's what I do with that. I say to myself from a critical lens, I'm like, okay, I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an intel op and the logic behind it is actually evil.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or maybe it's an intel op because they figured out some ontological shock shit and like they know shit I don't, and he has to come out here and do that and do his job. In which case, all the respect to you, do your thing.
Yeah.
Just like I say to Bustamante, nice job working for the CIA still. Like it is what it is.
Sure.
Meaning though, I can take what you say with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
And so when I look at Lue, I've been critical saying like might be a Fed here.
Yeah.
He's kind of said he like in some ways makes me think he is. Therefore, I don't necessarily have to believe what he says because there could be something else to it. Doesn't mean it's bad. Yeah. But like I'll be really curious to know sitting across from the guy. Yeah. Trying to get a feel for him, man to man, human to human. Yeah. If like maybe, and you don't know, maybe you could pick up on that or not. And I'd be curious to see what your thoughts are.
I think a lot of people were cynical around him because of this like threat narrative originally, and like being involved with TTSA or whatever.
That's Tom DeLonge's To the Stars.
Yes, it is. But I think he's changed his tune. Yeah, exactly. Tom DeLonge's To the Stars Academy, and he had a lot of interesting characters involved there. But I think Lue has
fed.
Yeah, an interesting crew board. But I think Lue's changed his tune a little since then. In Imminent, like in the forward, he's like, Imminent you usually associate with threats. Like that's not why I'm titling it this. So I think that's been kind of toned down. I don't know, man. I don't know. I will say you're never going to get like Snowden vibes from him. And I even brought up Snowden to him once and he was like, yeah, like that. I'd never do that. Like, fuck that guy,
Yeah, they all say that.
Yeah.
Could you not see how someone like Snowden felt the way he did? Totally different scenario from UIP to be very fair here, but felt the way he did from a constitutional perspective to come out and make that type of
I have
disclosure.
no problem with the way Snowden felt. I have a problem with what Snowden did. He took his information and gave it to the Russians. That's the problem.
He gave it to the Russians?
Yes. That's the problem. He didn't come out and whistleblow. He came out and spied. He leaked information, classified information. I've never done that. I've never purported to do it. I don't support it.
What do you mean he leaked it to the Russians?
Brother, that's why he went to Russia
Well, his plane got down by, at the time, Vice President Joe Biden. He was flying.
Brother, he's living in Russia.
I know, but he was flying from
protection.
I know, but he was flying from Hong Kong to Ecuador, and his plane got downed in Russia. By Biden.
You know what he had with him, right? He gave up that it wasn't just a Julian Assange. This is not like Private Manning did, where they were just trying to expose some things, which by the way was still wrong.
Yeah,
There's a right way and wrong way to do things.
Different situation.
Yeah, he actually compromised people who died. And that is a problem. There are people who are no longer alive right now.
So that's been disputed though. There's people that say that there's no one who died as a result of it, though he may have risked it.
No, there are. I can't go into details. There are sources who died.
So it's like he's these people are not like for like catastrophic disco. Like I think, the idealistic take is like he wants to broaden the surface area of understanding on this stuff. He believes like, ontological truth shouldn't be monopolized by the government. And he is trying to like come out with this stuff, but without breaking, any of his oaths. And like, he doesn't want to end up in jail. And then beyond that, I don't know. What do you think?
I'm curious to talk with him.
Yeah.
Cause like, I'm not going to know the truth.
Yeah.
I'm not a fucking mind reader.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty good at sitting across from people and getting an idea. I'm sure I'm going to have my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right.
Yeah.
But I will say in reading Imminent, I'm working through it right now.
Yeah.
I have a lot of mixed thoughts.
Yeah.
I really think it could come back to your theory on this stuff as a whole, which is that it could be a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, let's not tell him about this, but let's get him comfortable with this.
I mean, he has a counter intel background, so.
Yes, exactly. And the dude's resume before anything UAP, UFO is pretty nuts. I mean, dude's been around the block in some dangerous areas,
100%.
Doing things. So he's an ideal kind of person to, be a messenger of that, maybe on a counter intel type basis. But again, it doesn't mean that the concept of like, we have things in our airspace that we can't explain, that are not our technology, and we strongly believe are not the technology of our adversaries, or we'd be fucked right now.
Yeah.
And if you're not perking up when you hear that, at least.
Yeah.
Not saying he's telling the truth, but if you're not perking up at that, I think that's a mistake. I think I think it's, like Darcy Weir was really convincing me to do this, because I'm like, Darcy, isn't he like kind of a Fed? He's like, well, you be the judge of it, man. Like, see what he has to say.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. And I think he brings forward like specific interesting facts that are worthy of, real investigation. I do think at this point, Grush bringing forward 40, accused legacy people like from the, the program who, have gone forth to the, IC Inspector General Thomas Monheim and said like, we've worked on this stuff a lot of cases firsthand. I think that feels like a far more productive inroad at this point, than like talking about like random implants or whatever, or like, some sighting. Like if we've had like a historical crash retrieval program where we're trying to reverse engineer this stuff, that to me feels like of vital, importance, and like the real tip of the spear. But I don't know. As far as like the food fight, around, it's like there's some people who are like, he was an ATIP on these years and this, and James Lukatsky says this and he says this, and it's like I read all of that and I have a mental map of that. I don't like to weigh in on it because I don't want to get involved in the food fight. I just don't. So like,
you're like the Drewski meme. Not me.
Not me.
Not me.
No, I just want to. I want to study this stuff. I'm, pro American national security, but I want to like look into this stuff, and I want to look into it like aggressively in a way that like I can understand the truth, and so. I hope that never comes at odds with the,
right.
not sec thing or whatever. But like, yeah, I'm not trying to like hurl ad hominems at anybody. I just want to like be in my own lane and like search for truth.
Stay that way, dude.
And if anybody, by the way, were to hit me up and be like, hey, like don't cover this because you're like accidentally through your own open source investigation, not out of malice, but like leaking like important shit that's like vital to American national security, I would stop.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.